So Sophia, you asked me to make a recipe book for you because you wanted to know how to make some of the things that I make for you for dinner, and I decided instead to make you a video because it's a little bit a little bit easier to see how I make some of the things. So in this video, we're going to make the ultimate chicken soup, which is one of your favorites. And the only thing you really need, you can kind of be wishy-washy on the amounts and how long you cook things and temperatures and so forth, but the only thing you really need to make this is a pressure cooker. So go and make sure you have a pressure cooker first, okay? The first thing we're going to do is debone a chicken. And the best way to go debone a chicken is not to watch this video, but to go watch a video by Jacques Pepin where he goes through it in much more elaborate steps than I do. But I'm going to do it in this video and you can get a sense for it and maybe watch that video as well. So get your chicken. It's the first thing you want to do. And a cutting board and a sharp knife, preferably a boning knife, and your pressure cooker pot, because we're going to cut things off this chicken and put them into the pot. So the first thing you want to do is take off these wings. So if you cut in the front there and then bend the wing back and slit through, it'll come off pretty easily. Same on the other side. Then you need to take the wishbone off. The wishbone is like an upside down V in the front of the bird when you have the breast up. And if you stick your finger in the front of the breast, you'll feel it. And just cut a couple slits down. You can't see it in this video. A couple slits down in towards the bone and then pull that out. Now we have to detach the four legs. So wiggle the leg in the front and you'll find where the joint is. And you just need to stick your knife in there and just work away. It takes a while. Once you've done that to both sides, detach that leg, just slit down the back, okay? And you can actually start pulling the top part of the chicken skin effectively away from the carcass. You can see me pulling away here. And every now and again, you'll just need to put a knife in there and cut some piece of cartilage that's sort of holding it together. But in general, you can pull it apart with your hands. You can see me here just putting a couple slices in there and then pulling it down until you get to what some people call the oyster, which is where these two big hind legs attach to the carcass. And so we're going to have to remove those two. So just, again, stick your knife in there, twiddle it around, bend the legs, and it'll typically break off. And eventually you'll be able to pull this entire carcass right off there. Okay? So now take the carcass and you have to take these two fillets off. So you can just do this with your fingers. Usually I stick the knife in there just to loosen it up, but you can basically just stick your thumb in there and pull these two fillets right off. And then when you're done with that, you can stick that carcass into your pressure cooker. So now we have basically the meat with the four legs sticking out. So we have to take those out. So take your knife and clean the top of the knuckle on the front leg, the small leg. And then you can literally use your fingers to push the bone out and then yank it away. So you can see I've pulled the bone out there. Now I'm just going to pull it away. Put that in the pot. Same on the other side. Force your fingers down, squeeze the meat off the bone, cut it in a couple spots if it's sticking, and then yank it off. Then the back legs are a little bit more difficult. First grab the hip joint, or what effectively was the hip joint, and cut away as much as you can so you can get a good hold of that like knuckly part of the hip. So you can see I'm cutting around it now. And then eventually, once you've got a hold of that knuckle, you can start scraping down, cutting, scraping down to the next joint, effectively the knee. You can see I'm scraping here. It's not too hard. You don't have to press too hard to do that. Then you'll get to the next joint. And again, you need to cut around that joint. And I always have a little bit of trouble with that part. Take it all the way down, then stick the leg back in, and instead of pulling out like we did with the other leg, we're going to crack the back of it. You can hear the snap, and yank that leg out. So I'm going to do it again on this side. Grab a hold of that knuckly part, cut around it, start scraping down until you get to the next joint. use the knife to cut the flesh around that joint, and then start scraping down the remainder of the leg until you get to the very end of the drumstick. See him scraping, cutting, and when you get to the bottom, then turn the leg back inside out again, and the way you crack off that last part of the drumstick is usually with the back of a big knife. I did it with this carving knife, but it's not that easy. And then out comes, bang. So there's your chicken, deboned. Nice. Put it in a baking pan, and then we're going to set the oven to 425. And you're going to cook it for probably like an hour, just like so it's cooked through and brown. Doesn't need to be perfect. You can't really overcook or undercook because you're going to cook all this stuff again anyway. Okay, now back to our pressure cooker. There's your 4 legs, the carcass, and we need to add more stuff. So I recommend really cheap chicken parts as actually far better than good chicken parts. So in this case, frozen chicken feet, tasty. And what really works well, I mean the chicken feet works well, but what really works well also is chicken backs, which a lot of butchers will sell you. So I've got 3 chicken backs, the bones from the chicken we had, and then the chicken feet. So fit those in, and I could have probably fit some more in. Now we're going to add some sugar in the form of honey, but you can add brown sugar or just regular sugar, and that will help as a catalyst to make yummy brown bits. You'll see when it comes out. Then add water and fill it up to as high as you think you sort of can get away with in this pressure cooker. Remember, it's going to kind of bubble up a little bit here, so don't go crazy. And then that's it. There's nothing else in here, no salt, no nothing. Put the pressure cooker lid on, set the heat on, and bring it up to a boil, and cook that once it's hit a boil for about 3 hours. Okay. Now while that's cooking, we have to get the rest of the stuff that's going to be in the soup. So I add 4 main things here. We're going to start with onions. So get a sharp knife and basically dice everything. I use yellow onions here. You could probably get away with white onions. And I would do maybe 1 onion. You could probably squeeze in 2, not a big deal. So dice those up. Put those into a bowl. Here's another onion for good luck. And again, even the dicing of this isn't terribly important, but it's nice to make it kind of small enough that a spoon will have maybe a piece of chicken on it and a couple pieces of vegetables and the soup. So don't cut them too large. So there's your yellow onion. Next we have celery. So basically what we've got here is a basic mirepoix, as they call it in French cooking, the celery, onion, and carrot. But I don't use it in the traditional sense of a mirepoix, in that this is usually used as a flavoring when you cook the chicken. But I'm just using it to add vegetables, and these are 3 nice vegetables to add anyway. So again, clean your celery, dice them up, toss them into the pot. And then the final part of the mirepoix is the carrots. So I usually skin those first, clean them off, cut them into strips, and dice those as well. But I mean, you can put anything you want in here. You could put rutabaga, you could put in parsnips, sweet potato, whatever you like. These things don't add so much flavor as they do just some texture. It's what's going on in the pressure cooker where all the flavor really comes from, and you'll see that later at the very end of the video. So dice up the carrots, put those away, and then the last thing we're going to put in is potatoes, and I generally use a waxy potato like a Yukon or a red potato. If you put in like a russet, it's not waxy enough, and it's going to basically disintegrate when you cook it. That's what you make mashed potatoes out. It's just going to completely fall apart. So these hold their shape, and they have a bit of crunch left in them when you cook them down. And so you can't quite overcook these and turn them into mush the way you can with some other potatoes. So dice those up. Again, these are all kind of similar sized dices. And so then you have 4 vegetables, okay? So you have the mirepoix, onions, celery, carrots, and I add the potatoes as well. So pour those into the pot. And notice still I haven't seasoned anything here. I haven't added any salt or pepper or anything. So after about an hour, that chicken was done. Pull that out and let that thing cool because it is going to be steamy. So here's my first seasoning, which is rosemary. And what I do is as soon as I pull out the chicken, I dice that up, not dice it up, just chop it up into small fine pieces, scoop it off, and put it into the oil. So there'll be oil at the bottom from the chicken. And that oil will absorb the aromas and stuff from the rosemary, and it'll keep it in there. So then when the chicken's cooled down, pull the chicken skin off. You can eat that or dump it. You can't put it in the soup because it'll just turn a little bit gnarly. And then start pulling apart the chicken meat pieces, and I use the scissors to cut it up into bite-sized pieces, and you're going to get little gristly bits. Just toss those out, and you're going to get some fatty pieces in there as well as the very end of the drumsticks, which we had broken earlier. You can throw those away. So just get all the meat and then put that into the pot as well, and you can see it's getting pretty filled up. Then I pour the juices and mainly oil from that pot in there. And I'll also maybe use a little vinegar. In this case, I used vinegar to scrape up some of the brown goodies and put that in there as well. So 3 hours is done in the pressure cooker. Turn the heat off, put that off the heat, and let that cool down. And we're going to get some more flavorings. Soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and Marmite. Magic ingredient. So sprinkle those on pretty liberally. You can get a sense for how much to put in there, and then I put about a teaspoon of this Marmite stuff in there, which will add an umami flavor to it. It does make quite a bit of difference, and it'll help color the soup a nice mahogany color. So once your pressure cooker's cooled down, you can actually take the top off. You can see I kind of rushed things a little bit here. Then you're going to discard everything in here except for this liquid. And you can see now, like this soup comes out, it's already this mahogany color, mainly from the Maillard reaction that goes on in the pressure cooker, which is why you need to use a pressure cooker. You cannot use a regular pot. And then you could pick for bones or pick for meat in there, but in general I toss most of that. It's just cheap chicken feet and chicken backs for the most part anyway. So now you can salt and pepper. Lots of salt, more than you think. Just keep tasting it until it actually tastes about right, but you're going to have to put a lot in there. Okay, so we're basically done. So you just want to cook that down until the last thing that's going to get cooked is the potatoes. So simmer it at a low heat once it's kind of bubbling, and then just check every so often until those potatoes are done. Then let it cool down, put the top on, and stick it in the fridge. You can't eat it now. You got to wait till tomorrow. This is what tomorrow gets you. Basically, chicken jello at this point. You can see the fat has solidified at the white top there. And then below that it's effectively the same as jello. So you can also see I've also added some peas and corn. Again, not so much for taste, but it looks a little bit nicer, and they add a bit of pop when you eat the soup. So once it's sort of like solidified like this overnight, then scoop some out. Don't scoop all from the top because then you'll just get all the fat in one go and none for later. And then gently heat that up, which we'll turn it back into a liquid and it'll look a lot more like soup. So then it's done. Serve it up. You usually like it over some rice. And that's it. Good luck making soup. Scooch. Scooch. Okay. It's hot, okay?
I had no choice.
How's the soup?
Good.
Just good?
Mm-hmm. Good, good, good. Good, 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 good.
Not very good?
That's very good.
Is this your favorite thing?
Can I have some ice cubes in my soup?
Yeah, you want to cool down?
Yeah.
Alright.
Ice cubes in it.
Is this your favorite thing?
This is my favorite thing in the whole world. I like it same as bone marrow.
As bone marrow. Well, now
I
you can
like
make...
bone marrow and this soup.
Well, now you'll be able to make it.